Hi, welcome back to the Evolution Knit Along. This is week 3, basic lace. If you've done lace knitting before, there won't be anything too surprising this week, so it's a little bit of a rest. If you are new to lace, I will go into the one kind of unusual stitch. There's a slip knit 2 pass, a double decrease. I'm also going to talk about which of the stitches we're going to bother with the mirroring and which ones are just not worth the effort. I'm also going to talk about what to do if your decrease is right next to a stitch marker, how to handle that. So let's get to work. So there's a couple things I want to talk about with regards to the basic lace section of Evolution. So the first thing is that you may have noticed row 89 actually decreases a substantial number of stitches, and that's because the previous section had all those cables and we had increased the number of stitches so the cables wouldn't pull in, and now that we're moving away from that cabled section we need to decrease out those extra stitches so that it doesn't flare out. So that's what row 89 is up to. Next thing to talk about is which stitches should we mirror and which ones do we not bother with. So my personal opinion is that these double decrease stitches, the slip knit 2 pass, even though they are ever so mildly directional, are not worth the effort to mirror in this section. A little bit of foreshadowing in the advanced lace section, we're totally going to mirror them, but for now just leave them alone. They can be the same on both halves of the shawl. The knit 2 togethers and the slip knits here, those do need to be mirrored across the 2 halves of the shawl in order for everything to look right. So go ahead and mirror those, leave the double decreases alone. Speaking of the double decreases, let me show you how to make one of those. So I'm going to show you how to make a slip 1 knit 2 pass double decrease. I'll show you first with the yarn held English style and then continental. So you slip 1. Since this is a stitch that's about to be worked again, we're going to slip it as if to knit. That remounts it in the other direction. Knit 2 together, and then pass the slip stitch over. Okay, just like that. I'm going to knit to the next place and show you how to do it with the other hand. Okay, so the stitch before it is a yarn over. That always makes things a little more difficult because you need to keep track of that and keep it out of the way. But the basic stitch is the same. Slip 1 as if to knit, knit 2 together, and then pass that slip stitch over. Done. Okay, so let's say you're knitting along and you have industriously put stitch markers at every red line on the pattern. And you get to this point and you're like, okay, I'm doing it right, I'm doing it right. Uh-oh, I need to do that double decrease, but I only have 2 stitches before my stitch marker. Now a lot of people will panic at this point, rip everything out, go back, insist the pattern's wrong. There's lots of wrong-headed approaches to it. But the right thing to do is to realize that the 3 stitches for your double decrease are all there. It's just that one of them is on the other side of the stitch marker. And this occurs frequently when a decrease is immediately adjacent to a stitch marker. The stitches that are going into that decrease actually straddle the stitch marker. And if you look at your pattern, the very next stitch is a yarn over. So we're going to borrow this stitch right here for the double decrease, and then we're going to put it back with a yarn over. So don't worry about your stitch count changing. It's just a kind of a pain if you have your stitch marker there. Now, you may notice I've put these stitch markers in for the benefit of this video. I don't actually usually use them on patterns where everything lines up on top of each other. I think sometimes they can do more harm than good, but I do want to show you what to do. If you've put stitch markers in for each repeat and you get here and there's only 2 stitches left, don't worry because one of them's on the other side of the stitch marker. So this is a slip knit. The easiest thing to do really is to slip these 2 stitches over, just start it temporarily, take your stitch marker off, put the stitches back, go ahead and do your slip 1, knit 2, pass. So you've completed your double decrease, and then go ahead and replace that stitch marker right where it was before. And then, so we continue on with the yarn over, knit 3, yarn over, here's the slip 1, knit 2, pass that's in the middle of the repeat, yarn over, knit 3, and we have the same problem again, right? The same, well, it's not really a problem, it's just a, whoa, wait a minute, 2 stitches left. Yarn over, I'm going to slip those 2 over, get the stitch marker out of the way, put my 2 stitches back, perform the decrease, slip 1, knit 2, pass, replace the stitch marker, and then go about my business. No big deal. So I hope that helps somebody out there, and happy knitting. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy this week's knitting, and I will see you next week for some more complex lace. Bye-bye.